In our previous video, we learned about the start of the war after an entire cast of revolutionists suddenly appeared. Venustiano Carranza, Álvaro Obregón, Pancho Villa, Emiliano Zapata. They first defeated Pascual Orozco, so he could not gain power. Afterward, all the factions fought against Victoriano Huerta, who had already proclaimed himself president. He was considered the common enemy. The Zapatistas fighting in the southwest aimed to regain their lands and create an agrarian reform for all the country. They did not accept Carranza, a constitutionalist, another faction fighting in Nuevo León, Tamaulipas, and Zacatecas. Pancho Villa in the north and Álvaro Obregón in Sinaloa, and he also occupied Guadalajara. They all fought among each other. The social geographic differences caused political, ideological, and military divergences. The Villistas and the Zapatistas converged in Mexico City in December 1914. It is beyond any possibility to charge the sustained turbulence of that lethal combination of revolution and civil war. We can see the Zapatistas at the counter of the famous Sanborns restaurant in Mexico City, where they made a big revolutionary gesture by paying for their coffee. In this photograph, we see when Villa sat down in the presidential chair with Zapata to his left. They never fought each other, but could never combine in a final victory. During 1915, they fought what came to be called the Factions War. The Constitutionalists, led by Venustiano Carranza, occupied the capital city, took control of the weapon and ammunition factory. The factions of Zapata and Villa had no ammunition and could not get them from the United States, as previously, because the United States was sending all their supply to Europe, who was fighting World War I. Carranza, an experienced military with a lot of influence due to his discipline and organizational skills, decided first to defeat the Villistas. Carranza had gained day by day more territory, taking over more factories, and in Veracruz took possession of the exportations of oil of the Gulf, Henequen in Yucatan, and the cereal production in Querétaro. All this gave them economic resources. The Constitutionalists started developing a double political strategy, favoring not only the social classes but the working classes as well. By the end of 1915, the Constitutionalists had defeated the Villistas and the Zapatistas. The constitutional victory was definite. In 1915, the United States recognized Carranza's government, and during 1916, he worked in consolidating his triumph and drawing a national project. To obtain a smooth post-revolutionary transition, the Victor Group determined this with the Constitution of 1917. In 1919, Emiliano Zapata was killed in an ambush in Morelos by a commander of Carranza. Carranza worked for several years trying to appease the country, but was killed in an ambush as well. World War I came to its inevitable end. While the attention of the world and the international press shifted to the immense carnage of the Great War, the end came with the acceptance of exhaustion in all Europe. When the accounts were added up, the Mexican economy was in ruins, the infrastructure largely destroyed, and about 1 million of the country's 15 million citizens were dead. They died of gunshots. They died in artillery barrages. They died of disease. The old regime demolished, and then one man left standing faced the task of making a new Mexico. The revolution had been a social, political, warlike process that lasted 10 years. In 1920, the new state was born with a national identity. Álvaro Obregón was a new president, and he had a complex job ahead of him. His main objectives were the reconstruction and the final and total pacification of the country. Peace helped the recovery of agriculture, mining, and the railroad system. The United States started having an economic takeoff and started buying Mexican petroleum. However, they did not want to recognize Álvaro Obregón because they were trying to force the Mexican government to change some articles of the Constitution of 1917 that were contrary to the United States' interests. Mexico did not accept changing the Constitution but gave some concessions which helped improve the relationship. Obregón created many institutions, such as the Bank of Mexico, Banamex. The most extraordinary improvements were in the cultural field. Vasconcelos, the first secretary of the Public Education Ministry, promoted all kinds of artistic expressions. Print shops flourished, books were published, libraries opened, and he promoted the painting of murals in all public spaces, having José Clemente Orozco, Diego Rivera, and David Alfaro Siqueiros paint all the murals we still admire. By 1923, Pancho Villa was murdered in an ambush in Chihuahua while being governor and called the Mexican Napoleon. His murder was attributed to Álvaro Obregón and Plutarco Elías Calles. They feared that Villa would support Victoriano Huerta to become the next president after Álvaro Obregón. Álvaro Obregón's term was coming to an end. The next election was on its way. Don't miss our next video, Foco Tonal.